Yeah. Boogie like Benson, I'm a Who Dat. I'm a Who Dat. Long as I'm living, I'm a Who Dat. Lose or winning, I'm a Who Dat. Sports Coma, yeah, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like Benson, I'm a Who Dat. I'm a Who Dat. Sports Coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Somebody please better help. Running this thing like Elf. I thank God every day I'm not a felt. Go to YouTube Live with Big Q and the guys. If you ain't ride or die, the bandwagon get flipped. Been marching in, that was way for the ring. I was yelling out your chain for the championship. Bucking on town, duck down. Falcons, pluck, get shut down. Panthers ain't much touchdown. The vision really belong to us now. So much hate on the Saints, you could probably tell. Ever since Bounty Gate hit the NFL, when things seem fishy and you probably smell the crooked referees on Roger Goodell. Buggy like this and I'm a Who Dat. Every day I'm living, I'm a Who Dat. Lose or winning, I'm a Who Dat. It's the Sports Coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like this and I'm a Who Dat. It's the Sports Coma, this is where we do that. You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.
All right, welcome. Now rocking with the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys, where we have intense, entertaining, educating, and enlightening sport talk from your favorite sports fam. Shout out to you guys. Appreciate you being in the live early Wednesday. Listen, fam, this is not my regular time. I will be back later on in the day to preview the Saints-Rams matchup coming up this upcoming Sunday. So, with that being said, much love to you guys. Please do me a service as you come in. If you're new to the Coma, please feel free to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the share button. If you're listening via X, do me a service and retweet. Give me a retweet, please. Give me a retweet, and also let me know in the chat that you retweeted me on X. Much love to the Gram and the rest of the family members across the Spear and through the several different platforms that we multi-stream to. Thank you guys for checking us out. Anyway, big ups to everybody, man. Round of applause to all the fams. Thank y'all for being in the stream. All of the day ones, day twos, day threes, and day forevers. Good to see y'all in the stream. Let's hit into this, man, because the Saints are a ghastly 1-7. They're lined up for the first round draft pick, and all bets are off now. Now the Saints, at first we're talking about winning. Now it is a pivot to building up a development year. So we're in the fifth straight development year insofar as us trying to develop a team that's decent enough to compete, and not even thinking about football playoffs, but just looking at having some decent, competitive, smart football just to watch. Not perfect football, just smart and competitive football. Good football. We are deprived of that here in the Who Dat Nation unfairly. But nonetheless, this is where we are currently with this squad. And as we open the broadcast up, let me just share this guy, and of course, this was announced on Tuesday that the Saints are turning in Tyler Shough to start the rest of the way. And Shough will be named the starter. And of course, this is the time when you're 1-7. You have to let Tyler Shough play for the rest of the year and see if he's really a second-round pick quarterback that you want to build forward. If the Saints are lined up, and they are currently for the first-round draft pick in the NFL, Shough will more than likely be the guy. A lot of people thought the Saints was tanking for Arch Manning. That's not so much. Arch Manning doesn't look good. Nussmeier looks not. These guys that we thought would actually look good. I never thought Garrett Nussmeier was going to be a first-round draft pick quarterback. I've seen enough of Garrett from LSU to know his strength and weaknesses, questionable decision-making, non-athletic quarterback who over-relies on his arm, is far from a Jaden Daniels or a Joe Burrow. He was just privileged to be the next quarterback in line, and really it was supposed to be Underwood, who then flipped for the 12 or whatever million to go to Michigan, which began the downfall of that particular coach. But nonetheless, our head coach who picked his quarterback, which is Tyler Shough, now has the stage. He has the stage lined up where he has an opportunity to present himself to the Who Dat Nation in a favorable fashion. The only thing is, will this Fire Marshal Bill, who's the offensive coordinator, Nussmeier, and Kellen Moore, Mr. Tifus, whether these guys will be able to come together and stop calling these stupid plays and allow the offense to open up. You have nothing to worry about anymore insofar as the check down throws and all this. Let's have a wide open attack. Why not? The attack that we were supposed to have, where you got all these guys that are 4-3 guys, but you like to keep them going east to west as opposed to north and south. Can we open this thing up and let Tyler Shough, who's a big quarterback, 6'5", who can see all over, see everything, who has a gun for an arm, allow him to get the ball upfield and push the ball upfield? You're not going anywhere. There is no 1-17 in the history of the NFL that ever fought back from 1-7 to make the playoffs. Never happened in the entire NFL's history. So might as well turn it over to Shough and see what we got going on here. And that's the story that we're going to kind of get into among others. All right. So like I said, man, let's hit this one here. And this is presented by multiple outlets, including CBS, who says Saints have made a change of quarterback as they promoted rookie Tyler Shough to start over Rattler. According to NFL media, Shough makes his first career start Sunday against the Rams. It's going to be rough. Rattler heads to the bench. 1-13 record as a starting quarterback, which is tied for the second worst record by a quarterback in his first 14 career starts since 1950. Shough replaced Rattler Sunday in the third quarter of the Saints' eventual 23-3 loss to the Bucs and completed 15-21 for 136 yards and an interception. Coach Moore said after the game he made the QB swap in hopes of sparking the offense. We just needed to find a way to create some offense. Shough is the second highest drafted quarterback by the Saints in the common draft era behind Archie Manning, who was selected second overall in 1971. In the preseason quarterback battle, he completed almost 67% of his passes for over 300 yards and accounted for 2 touchdowns and 2 turnovers. He's an older quarterback at 26 years old. Last year at Louisville, completed almost 63% of his passes for over 3,100 yards, 23 touchdowns against 6 interceptions. Shough left college ranks 21-11 as a career starter in games played for Oregon, Texas Tech, and Louisville. The 1-7 Saints are off to their worst 8-game start since the 1990, which was Mike Ditka era. These guys are Ditka bad. These guys are Saints Mike Ditka bad. That's just horrible. That takes me back to some of the worst football I can remember under Mike Ditka, with stupid ass quarterbacks like Billy Joe Hobart and Billy Joe Tolliver. He was just collecting Billy Joes. I guess he just liked the name Billy Joe. Totally ineffective, gave up the entire draft and the first round pick from the following draft for Ricky Williams. He assumed that that's all he needed to win. What a dummy. But in the end, this team is Mike Ditka bad. That's awful. The Saints ranked 27th in total offense with 295 yards a game and 29th in scoring offense. 16 points, a stinking contest will not win you games unless you have the Baltimore Ravens and Dome Patrol defense mixed together. Just is not going to work. So anyway, Shough is giving the reins to the offense. Will it improve? Listen, I just think that hopefully not only just switching quarterbacks, but also understanding that these offensive play callers are just as responsible for what we've been seeing offensively speaking. Switching quarterbacks does not change the in-app play calling, the 10-yard in-ass offense, as I call it, the 10 yards in. 4 wide receivers on comeback routes within 10 yards, and they're all 4-3 guys. But no verticality, nothing. So the poorish offensive line play that makes it tough for the young quarterbacks to even have time to go through progressions. The drop passes by veteran wide receivers, whether they're Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave, Jawan Johnson, has been catastrophic for the Saints offense. So they're bad, and a lot of the blame is just not on the players, but on these assistant coaches, the offensive coordinator, the offensive line coach, the wide receiver coach. All these guys need to be looked at seriously how these guys are pretend. Now, you can be starting off rough, but if you continue to struggle game after game, guys dropping passes, missing blocks, and you still rolling these guys out here like it's no problem at all, that's a problem with them watching the tape. Then I doubt they're not even watching the tape. How could you watch the tape and still roll out some of these guys on tape? That number 88 blew several blocks in the game on tape that we studied yesterday. Several blocks that led to plays where Rattler was forced out of the pocket, but he won't get any of that blame. Why was his sorry ass even out there and Taysom Hill couldn't even get in there? I don't understand how number 88 was out there and Taysom wasn't. And Taysom is 3 times the player this guy could ever hope to be. A third string ass tight end, and he had more reps than Taysom Hill. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. You can't make it up. But that's what I look at. We didn't just put it all on these players. These play callers from an offensive standpoint and these assistant coaches all need to be under a microscope. They need to be under a microscope. This team offensively has performed hideous, and they're going backwards. They were averaging 18 points, now it's 16 points a game. So they're putting a lot of stuff on a rookie saying, well, let's just see what he does. The play calling has to change, and the offense has to change for his talents. You can't roll him out here with this bullshit that Nussmeier and Kellen Moore has been doing. It's just not going to work. It's not going to work. You got the chance to terraform this offense into something that's fun and explosive, and they are not that. So Shough is the guy now. We're at this stage at 1-7 where Tyler Shough is going to be the quarterback. So that is also being put out there. And how will he perform? You guys let me know in the chat what you think about how that will go down. But I like I said, not much is going to change unless you get that play calling together and have it fit around him and his talents. That's real deal spill. All right, let's move on to this next article right here, fam. Let's get into trade talk now. Let's talk trade talk with the Saints at 1-7. There's not much else to talk about except for the trade talk. And a lot of stuff has been made mention of, especially Adam Schefter he was on the Pat McAfee show, and he kind of discussed a few things about the Saints and some words, and we'll go over a few of some of these things. So let's listen to what Adam Schefter had to say about the Saints trading situation. Here we go.
You set the over-under for number of trades at 15. At that point, we had already had a couple. Where do you stand today, a week out?
We've had 5 in the month of October. It looks like the under is going to come in right now. But I do think that we're going to get some activity between now and the Tuesday, November 4th, 4 p.m. Eastern trade deadline. I'm still counting and waiting on deals for wide receivers. We've got the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Buffalo Bills, the Denver Broncos, other teams that have made calls about wide receivers. We've got the New Orleans Saints sitting on a collection of wide receivers in which I think at least one will be dealt. And if I had to bet, I would say Rashid Shaheed is the guy that interests most teams for his speed and his talent, and the guy whose contract is up after this year, who the Saints, I think, would be most willing to part with if the compensation were fair and right. The New England Patriots have been open to moving off their former franchise or transition safety, Kyle Duggar. We'll see if that happens. I would bet he's no longer a Patriot by the time the trade deadline comes around on Tuesday.
They already traded Keon White to the Niners.
I think the Miami Dolphins will move at least one of their pass rushers, Jalen Phillips or Bradley Chubb. I think we'll get some other activity here. At some point in time, the Minnesota Vikings are going to have to add a veteran quarterback. I don't think it's a high-profile move, but look, when they traded Sam Howell before the season, they had Carson Wentz waiting in the wings. Carson Wentz has season-ending shoulder surgery. 2 quarterbacks on their roster are J.J. McCarthy and Max Brosmer, 2 young quarterbacks. Vikings have to add a veteran quarterback at some point in time here. I think there's going to be a flurry of activity after next week. One move I'm not expecting A.J. Brown to be traded, despite all the conversation.
All right. So anyway, that's what Shefty made mention of, and he was right, is rainwater, especially with the New England Patriots. The Patriots traded away Keon White to the 49ers, and he talked about Kyle Duggar, the safety. He was right as rainwater on them. They traded Kyle Duggar to the Steelers. So the 49ers been looking for some help at the end position. They get Keon White, and the Steelers get a safety in Kyle Duggar. So he was right on that. His information is correct insofar as that. And that kind of puts us in line for what we were talking about dealing with the New Orleans Saints. And he made mention of Rashid Shaheed. The first team that comes to mind in terms of Rashid Shaheed is the Denver Broncos. He mentioned Denver Broncos, and you best to believe that the Saints are going to do business with Denver. I would not be surprised if Rashid Shaheed is dealt to the Broncos. I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Olave is dealt there or, of these places. But Brandon Cooks, we'll see what they do with him. I don't know what kind of trade value Cooks has. A small wide receiver who is not as fast as he used to, who can't block. I don't know what his value is, but somebody, I guess, could use his services. Rashid Shaheed is interesting, but the Saints have already had the choice to decide on between the two. Who would you take? They're pivoting and say, hey, man, we're going to take Chris Olave. Now, Chris Olave is leading the team right now in catches, a lot of short stuff. He still is the guy. He is lined up for a big contract with the Saints, and we'll see what kind of stuff Mickey Loomis talking about. But then again, if you're looking into the future, and the Saints are not going to be very good, obviously, this year and next year, unless they're focusing on adding prospects, veteran prospects interiorly. This team's not going to be good very well if they're using their draft picks in a way where if they're not addressing the offensive line and the defensive line, I think they're wasting their time. You can have a fantastic. I don't think that that's just my stacking point. Now, there's a lot of places you can go, but if they're not using their draft capital to appease and fix the left guard position, the right guard position, to get a backup center of the future, I think they're wasting their time. If they can't find a massive interior defensive tackle to put there, I think they're wasting their time. Now, they got Divine Gacho they gave up picks to get, but it just has not worked out. Divine Gacho has not worked well in this system. He has not looked as well as I thought he would look. Brian Bresee started off well, but then has cooled off a bit. He has not did what we thought he was supposed to do, and maybe that's because of scheme. But a lot is just not formulated in this first year under Kellen Moore, who he needs to toughen up. But anyway, let's attack this article right here from NFLTradeRumors.com. Saints more likely to trade Rashid if compensation is right. And you heard what the man himself, Shefty, said. Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed have both come up regularly as potential trade targets for the teams around the league. One or two, Shefty, Shaheed to be the most likely to be traded. He mentioned three teams. Steelers, Bill, and Coach Payton. Coach Payton wants Rashid Shaheed, and he probably going to end up getting Shaheed there. Of course, not to mention Taysom Hill is also in the final year of his contract. This could be players that we could be looking at that could be traded as well. I don't think Juwan Johnson will be traded, but I think he should be traded. I'm going to be honest with you. I think his ass should be traded. I think he's not worth $10 million, not even close, and we can do a lot better than this guy. Dropping passes with concentration drops, not even blocking correctly. He's just too soft. But but Shaheed was tendered by Saints as an exclusive rights free agent before signing an extension in lieu of his restricted tender. He's due $4.2 million in 2025 and set to be unrestricted next year. In 2025, Shaheed has appeared in 7 games so far and caught 39 passes off 57 targets for 431 yards and 2 touchdowns. A vertical offense can really get the best out of Rashid Shaheed. And like I said, at 27 years old, he went undrafted because he was undeveloped. He was a hell of a return man, but he's a guy who, if you have a vertical attack, he really would thrive in that. And that's just not what we've seen here in New Orleans. They pretend to want to throw the ball, but they're more east-west than north-south. That's just the reality. And teams know how to play the Saints that way. That's why it's tough for them to move the ball. and they don't attack like they're supposed to. It is not that hard to attack downfield. It really isn't, and it should be. We see teams do it every damn week in college and in high school and in the pros. They do it every week, but some kind of way, we, the New Orleans Saints, have a problem with getting the ball up the field. More trade talk. Brandon Cooks could be traded for the 5th time. I don't know who would want him, but Ian Rappaport did say that Brandon Cooks could be traded before the trade deadline, and it would be the 5th time that you would see him being traded ahead of the deadline. So he's 32 years old, has been traded 4 times in his 12-year career, tied for the most in NFL history with linebacker Kiko Alonso and former Hall of Fame running back Eric Dickerson. Cooks was traded from the Saints to the Patriots in 2017, the Patriots to the Rams in 2018, the Rams to the Texans in 2020, and the Texans to the Cowboys in 2023. And the Saints signed this man. The Saints signed this man and brung him down here for whatever odd reason, and it never worked, and we were against it. We were questioning from the jump, saying that why would you bring the smallish wide receiver who can't block, and you run him out there on blocking plays. He doesn't block. He doesn't even throw himself in front of these people to block, and it was a waste of time and money. And now all of a sudden they want to get rid of him. It was a bad decision. It was a stupid decision by Mickey Loomis and Kellen Moore. It was just stupid all the way, and we continue to suffer from it. But in the end, we'll see how the Saints address this situation as we get closer to the draft. They were trading draft picks to get players. They traded draft picks to get Divine Gacho. They traded draft picks to get Divine Valley, who wasn't starting. They were still running Cooks out there every damn game at the top wide receivers. He would be the 4th guy coming out after Brandon Cooks, which made no sense. But ask Kellen Moore and Nussmeier that. You know, why they got this guy out here and he can't even block. And you trade picks for Valley. And this week is 8 weeks in, and Valley's finally, is not getting the same reps. It's just really a lot of questions, more questions than answers, because they don't have any answers, to be honest with you. So bad call, stupid decision making. And the Who Dat Nation was calling at the same time, saying, what are you doing with this guy? This guy shouldn't be here. There are other guys. And speaking of other guys and trade talk, let's just keep this thing moving. Shout out to NOLA.com. They did a fantastic piece that talked about players, 10 Saints who have been linked to trade rumors over the last few weeks, and the order of which these players, who are and will they be traded. Number 10, Cam Jordan, is 10 of them. Moving on from Jordan feels highly unlikely given what he means to the franchise, as well as the cap complications that will come from moving his deal. There will be a point last season where the pass catch rusher admitted to Sports Illustrated he had wanted a trade, but he and the franchise have since patched things over. Still, CBS Sports insider Jonathan Jones mentioned Jordan as a possible trade candidate, which is why he's on the list. What the Saints can get from, there's no precedent for trading a 35-year-old pass rusher on the final year of his contract, but 32-year-old Zadarius Smith and a 2026 7th-round pick he fetched, a 2025 5th-round pick, and a 2026 6th-round pick in last year's Browns-Lions trade. The Saints love their 7th or 6th swaps, so maybe that's the range. But then why do it? I don't think Cam Jordan goes anywhere. He'll go into the sunset as the Saints defensive end. I don't see Mickey Loomis trading him. Remember, this is Mickey Loomis who's supposed to be making these deals. Number 9, Cooks. We just talked about him. Cook knows a thing or two about trades, being dealt 4 times. With only 127 yards on 14 catches, the wide receiver may not be an obvious candidate to be dealt, but the NFL reported that he's among the Saints expected to be moved. Dylan Cooks will free up space for Divine Valley. But let me ask you this. Saints acquired Valley for a 4th and a 7th-round pick. What would the Saints fetch for Cooks? Current day Cooks isn't likely to fetch the same level of compensation he did last season. The Cowboys sent in a 5th and 6th-round pick to the Texans, but the few deadlines have featured several teams giving up late selections to take a flyer on a receiver, such as Detroit spending a 6th-round pick to the Browns for Donovan Peoples-Jones. Can we get that? Peoples is a lot younger than Cooks, but can we get a 6th-round pick for Cooks? More than likely a 7th. I'll be happy with a 7th-round pick for Cooks to get the 7 and to clear the cap space that he brings, right? Number 8, Dylan Redunce. Teams are always looking for interior line depth, which explains why Redunce was also named by the NFL's network as a name to watch for the Saints. He signed a 1-year deal. The 27-year-old started the first 2 games at left guard before Penning returned to the lineup. And even if Redunce draws interest, the Saints might not be in a position in which they can afford to part ways with offensive line depth after Eric McCoy's season-ending injury. By the way, Luke Fortner actually did pretty good. Fortner did decently. We watched the tape on Patreon on Tuesday, and Fortner did a solid job in relief of Eric McCoy. He wasn't, super good, but he was solid. Pleasantly surprised. Now, Dylan Redunce, I don't know if the Saints, he is on a 1-year deal, but you also have Trevor Penning as well. Trevor Penning has 1 year left on his deal. Dylan Redunce has 1 year left on his deal. This was like a player that was Saints was a contract they signed to see how this player has done. I have low grades for Dylan Redunce. I didn't like him at the tackle position. That was a bad look. He hadn't looked all that good at the guard position either. So I don't know if there's anything out there that people would get for Redunce, but maybe we'll see what the Saints could get. A deal for tackle Asim Richards serves as a template. The Cowboys included Richards and a 28 7-round pick for a 2028 6-round pick. So that old 6-7 swap, and I'm cool, kids, for including the 6-7. So this thing, the Cowboys traded the Saints Asim Richardson for a 7-round pick, a 7-round pick for a 2028 6-round pick. So they just did that. Do we then get the same deal for Dylan Redunce? Now, if you trade Redunce, you at least get something for him, right? Because he's a player on an expiring deal. So it wouldn't be a bad decision for the Saints to acquire draft capital. If they're trying to get 3 more picks here, if they're talking about more picks, and they have, I think, 5 picks right now, and they want to get at least 2 more picks or 3 more picks, the Rashid Shaheed will fetch you a pick. And where the other pick is supposed to come from, Dylan Redunce, the Saints could have at least 3 more picks here if they're serious about getting rid of some of these guys. And, of course, it will make sense because then you would begin to bring in the guys like Terrell Simpkins and give them more reps and develop them for the future and see what these other young offensive linemen can go based on the fact that you are not going anywhere this year. Number 7, Pete Werner. After the Saints already bracing for life without Werner, over the last 2 weeks, the Saints have taken the linebacker off the field so rookie Danny Stutzman could play a few series. Trading Werner would be the logical next step. If the Saints can get something for him, the Saints sign Werner to a 3-year, $22.5 million deal. That's Mickey Loomis. So trading will result in $1.7 million in dead money. I'm good with that. But then leave almost $6 million on the books for next season due to his signing bonus and recent restructures. I am all for this. I'm for this. Pete Werner and Demario Davis do not fit in Staley's defense. His defense is predicated on speed, getting pressure with the front 4, and a lot of pressure is then put on the linebackers to cover areas of the field, whether in zone or man or whatever the case may be. Pressure is put on guys. They have to be able to cover a great amount of field. Now, the thing about it is Danny Stutzman is not super athletic, but this is the guy that Staley picked to be in for his defense. Werner is not athletic enough. Plus, Werner can't be justified to remain here if he's missing tackles. He missed too many tackles. We know Demario Davis is going to retire, but Pete Werner misses way too much tackles. And if we can get $6 million back on our books next year by getting rid of him and he doesn't fit what we got going on, and there's Stutzman and Stahlberg and Jalen Ford next, then I'm all for it. Pete Werner does not fit here. He is a logical move for us to kind of get him out of here. Maybe Peyton wants him. Maybe we can pack and ship him with Sean Payton. Payton could take him. Saints like Werner for his instincts and ability to read the field, but the 5th-year linebacker hasn't had a long history of production. His 2 sacks this year are a career high. What the Saints could get for him. Last year, Seattle traded Jerome Baker, a 2025 4th-round pick, and acquired linebacker Ernest Jones from the Titans. The Saints would unlikely require a player at the same position, but draft capital could set a nice precedent. Somebody would take Pete Werner off your hands. He just don't work for us. He don't fit for what we got going on, but maybe Peyton would want him. Somebody will want Pete Werner. He cannot be justified for his money and the fact that now they're taking him off the field because of his non-athleticism and giving youthful people an opportunity to play. But also it's the fact that he's missing too many tackles, and I cannot have that. You know, the time for the veterans is over with. It's young people now. Demario Davis, such a move would make sense only if the Saints want to help Davis chase a ring somewhere. At 36, Davis still playing a relatively high-level football, and San Francisco have a massive need at linebacker. While all-pro Fred Warner done for the season. Reunion with Sean Payton and Denver also could be a good fit, but unless Davis wants out, and which he doesn't, offers a king's ransom, the two-time Pro Bowler will likely stay put. What the Saints can get if they want out, like Jordan, there aren't a lot of trade values for him, but let's look at the trade with the 49ers and the Saints. In 2021, the Saints sent Kiko Alonso to the Niners in exchange for Quan Alexander and a conditional fifth. Would a conditional fourth be enough? Absolutely. But it just won't happen. The Saints won't give up on Cam or Demario Davis, despite the fact the team is terrible. Number 5, Alontae Taylor. Taylor's name popped up in a recent ESPN article with Buffalo, Seattle Seahawks, and Dallas. This says potential fit. Now, the 26-year-old is in a contract year. So if the Saints can't finalize an extension, it would make sense to gauge the market and get a return before he departs. Still, ESPN Jeremy Fowler wrote that the Saints would only consider moving on if they receive a strong offer. Trading Taylor would undoubtedly hurt the secondary this season. They don't care about any of that because it's a youthful year anyway. And Jordan, if it's, we know that Jonas Sanker is the future. Jordan Howden is there as well. But this is a contract year for Alontae Taylor. But seriously, are the Saints going to pay Alontae Taylor? We just seen Duggar get traded to the Steelers. Is Alontae Taylor out there? He's, like he mentioned, he's one of the players that the Saints get strong interest. Would they take a 3rd or 4th round pick for Alontae Taylor? You know, is he in the long-range plans for the Saints at the star role? They claim to like him, but only time will tell. What the Saints could get for a generous haul, according to the article that New Orleans received from Marshawn Lattimore. Y'all hit the like button for me, please. Hit that like button as you coming in. Shout out to Yassi OG, Gundam, all the fam. Appreciate y'all for being here. Hit the like button. And if you're not a sub up, hit that sub button, man. But Taylor would likely qualify as a compensatory free agent, which would still put his cost somewhere between the 3rd and 4th round pick. The Chiefs receive a 3rd and swapped 7 rounders when they traded L'Jarius Sneed to the Titans. The Saints also traded Roby for a 3rd and 6th in 2022. I remember that. Remember the generous haul Saints received for Marshawn last year is unrealistic because of what Marshawn Lattimore was. But Alontae Taylor, this is an interesting question. Do the Saints pay Alontae Taylor? We've been talking about Rashid Shaheed. We've been talking about Chris Olave, but Alontae is up there, right? Do you play him? Pay him. Number 4, Carl Granderson, absolutely not. Anonymous league execs told Washington Post that this year's deadline will center on pass rushers. If that's the case, will the teams come on to looking at Granderson? 4.5 sacks, ranked 15th in the NFL. He's cooled off in recent weeks and only had a quarterback pressure rate of just under 11%. So his playing time too has dipped since Young's return, also working in favor. Granderson is durable, hasn't missed a game since 2022. With Chase coming back, it should be Chase and Carl on the field with Cam coming off the bench. No doubt about it. What the Saints could get, the price tag for pass rushers varies greatly. Teammate Young was dealt to the Commanders and the Niners for a conditional 3rd pick. A 3rd rounder. Washington also received a 2nd round pick from the Bears for Montez Sweat, but Granderson doesn't have the athleticism, perhaps putting his range somewhere between Young's deal and last year for Smith, a 5th or maybe a 6th, which is not worth it. And we don't want to trade Curl because Curl is our best defensive player and a bright spot on the defense going into the future. And the fact that Cam is retiring, it makes no sense to give up a good player like Carl Granderson for a 5th or 6th round pick. Stupid. Wide receiver Rashid Shaheed, we know he'll be gone. Shaheed is in the contract year. Excellent deep threat. Shaheed's speed should attract many teams. His stats per game a little down the season. Though he's still shown his explosiveness, Shaheed would make sense for clubs like Seattle with former Saints coordinator Clint Kubiak, Kansas City, and Pittsburgh. Denver's also mentioned. What the Saints could get, ironically, the Saints package for Veli which was a 4th and a 7, seemed like a reasonable comp for Shaheed, but the fan base might erupt if the Saints can't get more than that, given they already frustrated with how little Veli has played, and Philadelphia's deal for Jahan Dotson might be better. The Commanders sent a wide receiver and a 2025 pick to Philly in exchange for a 3rd and 2 7th rounders. Can the Saints fetch that? I would not be high on a lot of these picks in compensation because of the guy that's trading for him. Mickey Loomis is not a very good general manager in trade. His trades are suspect at times, and he has more misses than he does hits. So I'll be very careful with Mickey Loomis, and he will more than likely trade with Sean Payton. That's more than likely where Rashid Shaheed's going to go, to Sean Payton. You know, he's going to do business with Sean Payton. He's so predictable. But let's go to Elvin. Kamara has made it clear he doesn't want to be traded, threatened to retire if he were a dealt. Loomis is likely to respect that wish given the running back's impact on the franchise. But if things were somehow changed, the Saints decided to be ruthless and deal Kamara anyways to see how the running back has several suitors. Kamara is only averaging 3.6 yards per carry, but isn't nearly involved in the passing game as he once was. This is on Kellen Moore. And I've said this before. Kellen Moore doesn't know how to use Alvin Kamara. He does not know how to use him. Alvin Kamara is not Saquon Barkley. He's not a power back that can run through tackles. That's not what he does. He's a space back that is good in space. It does the Saints no good if you can't set up good blocking for him on screen so he can get in space and wide receivers can block their man or have him opportunity to get out in open areas of the field. It's just not working because the blocking is not helping and they're not setting. It's just crappy. What the Saints can get, a postcard from Hawaii. Kamara said he'll drink a pinata. Drink a pina colada. I said a pinata. But the reality is Elvin Kamara is not going anywhere. Let's just be honest with you. And, of course, the final one is a wide receiver, Chris Olave. Extend him or trade him. The Saints face a fascinating crosswords with Olave while he has yet another year in his contract. Olave confirmed he and New Orleans have conversations about a new deal, but also the Saints have kept him informed about a possible trade. Olave looks like he's rounding into form for a 1-6 team. He's likely the most valuable asset if the Saints want to get an additional piece for the future. Trading Olave would hurt in the short term, particularly as the Saints evaluate their quarterback situation, but plenty of teams could use a receiver. Olave might be the best one on the market. What the Saints could get, the Lattimore Hard, a 3rd, a 4th, and a 6th for Lattimore, and a 5th is certainly one to watch. But the Bears also gave up a 2nd-round pick a few years ago for Chase Claypool. That trade was a huge bust for the Bears, but New Orleans wouldn't be blamed for seeking something similar, even if Olave's lengthy injury history. Chris Olave is definitely the top trade candidate on the New Orleans Saints. If you're trying to fetch some picks, high picks that can help you move forward. But then again, they have to make the correct picks and then assimilate them into a successful environment so the Saints can have success as fast as possible. So shout out to Matt Paris for this article and 10 potential trade players as we approach the trade deadline. The Saints are most certainly going to be active with a 1-4 record. So anyway, 1-7. I wish it was 1-4. I wish it was. But anyway, it is not. So anyway, big ups to you guys. Appreciate you for being in the stream on this one, man. Listen, I shall be back later on the day. We're going to do the preview stream. We're going to kind of go into and do the preview stream for Hump Day, the Hump Day Heat episode of the Coma. We'll kind of look at the Rams and the Saints and see what's going on there, man, and see if the Saints could break off and see if they can get the second win of the season with Tyler Shough. It's the Tyler Shough era has begun in the city of New Orleans. Will it make a difference? Time will tell. Anyway, with that being said, I am going to get out of here. Y'all have a beautiful rest of y'all day. Y'all hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share. If you're listening to me via X, please do me a service and retweet this. Get the message out that the Tyler Shough era is starting in New Orleans. And we'll be here to kind of watch and see what they can do. Anyway, I'm going to be out. I'm going to holler at y'all on the next one, man. Y'all check out the links in the description section below. And I'm going to holler at you later. Much love. Peace. And
Boogie like Benson, I'm a Who Dat. Long as I'm living, I'm a Who Dat. Lose or winning, I'm a Who Dat. Sports Coma, yeah, this is where we do that. Where we do that, 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 Boogie like Benson, I'm a Who Dat. Sports Coma, this is where we do that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Somebody please better help. Running this thing like Elf. Thank God every day I'm not a felt. Go to YouTube Live with Big Q and the guys. If you ain't ride or die, the bandwagon get flipped. Been marching in, that was way for the ring. I was yelling out your shame for the championship. Bucking on town, duck down. Falcons, pluck, get shut down. Panthers ain't much touchdown. The vision really belong to us now. So much hate on the Saints, you could probably tell. Ever since Bounty Gate hit the NFL. When things seem fishy and you probably smell the crooked referees are Roger Goodell. Yeah, probably like this and I'm a Who Dat. Every day I'm living, I'm a Who Dat. Lose or winning, I'm a Who Dat. It's the Sports Coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that, 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 Boogie like this and I'm a Who Dat. It's the Sports Coma, this is where we do that.
You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.
Whether you're catching up on Saints news at Jackson Square, checking Pelicans scores in the Garden District, or staying updated on LSU while grabbing coffee in the French Quarter, there's one place that keeps you connected to everything that matters in our city. From Bourbon Street to the Superdome, from Preservation Hall to the Riverfront, New Orleanians are staying in the know with the WhoDatDaily.com. Your daily source for Saints, Pelicans, LSU, and all the sports, music, and culture that makes our city special. At work downtown, at a game in the Dome, or just relaxing by the Mississippi, wherever life takes you in the Big Easy, you can stay connected. Because when you're from New Orleans, you don't just live here. You stay in the NO. That's stay in the know. Visit the WhoDatDaily.com and never miss what matters most to Who Dat Nation. Stay in the NO, you stay in the know.
Welcome to the Pro Shop, where we create authentic NOLA-inspired clothing for men, women, and children. From Saints jerseys to Pelicans gear, everything's crafted right here in New Orleans. Whether you're shopping the Pro Shop, the Pel Shop, or the Pro Shop Kids, we've got your whole family covered with genuine merchandise that represents our city's spirit. Check for links in the description section below.